Okay, so you just finished your show. Your discipline was absolutely unmatched. Your physique was at its peak and your routine was solid. But now you're like, what the heck do I actually do with myself? I've been there. After your show, you may not know what your next goal is. Like, what do you do during this season? You're supposed to rebuilding, but how do you do that? Why do you do that? Honestly, it's a big shift mentally and physically. So it can be hard to wrap your mind around and really understand who you are now, because it's almost like you have to pick up what you knew and drop it into a new dimension and figure out where to go from there. So today we're going to talk about why you feel a little bit lost. You're going through a little bit of an identity crisis. I did. I know I did. Yeah, it sucked. But we're going to talk about how to rebuild your identity and your confidence after the stage. Hello, my name is Ashton. I am a holistic physique coach, post-show recovery specialist, and I typically focus on physique-focused athletes and their recovery season. And oftentimes, athletes come to me with lots of bloating, identity issues, mindset confusion, like how the heck do we eat for our bodies? How do we exercise according to our season? And all the things, holistic, that is mind, body, spirit. So let's dive into this identity vacuum and why it happens. So during prep, you have hyperstructure. Every meal, every calorie, every exercise step, movement, hour of sleep, it's all mapped out, it's all calculated, it's all written down, and it's all very strategic, and it all matters to a T. And that structure kind of anchors your identity. It is now like who you are because it's what your life revolves around. If somebody asks you to come hang out with them, the first thing you do is go through your mind of, okay, like what does my food and my workout and everything else look like around that? I remember after my show, literally just the first morning, waking up and having that new freedom of like, oh, I don't have to eat egg whites for breakfast this morning. I can actually go to Cracker Barrel with my family and have a little nibble of all those things and not really worry about it. And sure, that was great, but that kind of got out of control and I didn't have a clear goal after that, like next week, because sure, that week is pretty great to just lay back, or I would say like the next few days. A week might be pushing it, but just like chill and hang out with your family, eat what you want for the most part. Don't overindulge, but like I said before, like have little nibbles of things and experience life, because it's little things like this that really make life worth living. But once you get past that little post-show snippet, is what do I do next? Who am I? Where am I going with this next phase of my journey? How do I get there? And how do I revolve my life around this new goal? After my show, I felt a little bit lost. I knew I had goals and a solid plan, but it wasn't something I was used to yet. And believe it or not, structure and habit actually create dopamine loops. So when you have these itty bitty little habits that you tick off on a box mentally every day, that strikes your dopamine, that makes you happy because you feel like you have a sense of control and that you accomplished something. And when things don't go perfectly as planned, it can really throw us for a loop and throw off our day. But when things go according to plan, it feels really good. But then when you remove those habits that you've created very abruptly, and it happens very quickly, this spikes anxiety and your stress hormone. Your body's like, whoa, what's happening? That's not supposed to happen at this time. That's not supposed to go in your body right now. Our bodies are incredibly smart and they adapt to these things that we do over and over again. That's why habit stacking is so important. And this is why we need to understand that our prep routine was a comfort zone, not just a plan. It feels like losing control and a part of yourself when you shut that routine straight off. So after your prep, your hormones like cortisol, leptin, and ghrelin, and your metabolism are all recalibrating. Your hunger signals are louder, and your dopamine response to food is extra heightened. So you've been restricting this whole time, and now you're having your post-show treat. That's why it's so good in that moment, because you're like, I earned this. And that's why, unfortunately, a lot of athletes tend to binge after their show because it spikes that dopamine because it feels like you're rewarding yourself. But we know it's not worth it. I hate that we've created this culture around post-show treats and binges. It's not healthy. So when you combine that dopamine hit with the lack of routine, your brain has to figure out a new normal, which is why not just breaking your routine super quick is strategic. We don't want to stay in prep mode, but we do want to go off of that structure and tweak it a little bit so that you can slowly progress into this new phase that you're in. I actually didn't end up wanting much of anything after my show. Like there wasn't anything that I was feeling like I had to have because I was restricting it so much. I mean, sure, I enjoyed my caramel apple after my show. I was so excited about that. I split that with my mama and my mom who were at my show with me, and I had just a few slices. I didn't feel the need to have the whole thing, and I didn't eat any of the post-show treats that I had packed, which was crazy. I was like, I thought I wanted this. And then also we split a burger afterwards too. And I think it's because like I wasn't super duper hungry. I just wanted these little tastes, but I knew how to control it. And I made sure during my prep to include these foods that I love without restricting them too much so that I wouldn't binge afterwards. And this was super beneficial to me. After my show, I did do a low FODMAP during my prep, so that's why the apple felt like such a treat, but I only had a few slices because I didn't want to trigger that response in my body. Your body is biologically wired to crave structure. This is just how humans work. And then suddenly we cut it off. And then with your hormones out of whack on top of that, duh, you feel out of whack. During prep, your brain actually adapts to the scarcity. You have limited food and calories, your rigid gym routine, all those little habits that you've created. When you gain freedom, you overcompensate. So for instance, maybe you cut coffee creamer out during that last month of your prep. And so now you're going back into your new normal, probably going overboard with the coffee creamer. And we know that coffee creamer adds up fast. So if we would have just maybe kept it in our routine beforehand and just done a little bit, we wouldn't have gone so overboard afterwards. And we can slowly start adding these things back in to help us not overcompensate. But if we focus on one thing, say the coffee creamer, versus maybe we want to have nut butter. That's a big thing too in the bodybuilding world. We want to start adding that nut butter in. Maybe we do a little lick at a time. It's about being gradual, not going all in on one thing, but maybe have little bits of many things versus hyper focusing on one. I don't know if that just came out of my brain the way I needed it to. I'm trying to figure out how to explain what I'm thinking. But when we spread ourselves out, maybe if we spread our overcompensations out, we get more variety and we have each of those in smaller portions versus having that one thing that we just go way overboard with. We need a slice of pizza, not a whole pizza. I hope that made some sense. And I know it's hard to think if you eat that one cookie, then everything you worked for is gone. What if I binge off of this cookie? Well, if you're restricting it still, you're not growing in any sort of way. So have that cookie today and allow yourself to have one tomorrow too. If you don't end up wanting the cookie tomorrow, don't eat the cookie. You don't have to have it, but also don't over restrict yourself to where you're going to eat 12 of them in one sitting. And I know that you feel like that's a ridiculous thought, but it's because your brain feels threatened. Scarcity plus fear makes you hyper-focused on control, food, and your appearance. And your fear of losing that control is so normal. It's literally your body's natural response to surviving. Okay, so now we need to shift from your peak prep discipline to sustainable health discipline. I want you to rediscover old hobbies or try some new ones, build some skills that are not physique focused. You need to build routines around things that you enjoy and give you energy and help in your recovery, not just base your life around macros in the gym and about how everything is going to affect your physical appearance. I know that for me, I had a hard time telling people what I like to do for fun other than the gym and research. Those were my sad answers. Like, yeah, sure, duh, I go to the gym, duh, I research. Those can't be my hobbies anymore. When bodybuilding is your life, it truly takes over, and we need to find things that stimulate our mind more than just going to the gym. I want to challenge you to learn a new skill or pick up a crafty hobby. Let's learn how to play the guitar. That is so good for your brain. Longevity-wise, we want to do things that trigger certain parts of our brain that make us think in new ways. I know for me, I really want to get back into tumbling and I want to learn how to dance. And those are forms of exercise. Since my last show, something that I'm really proud of is I've learned a lot of Pilates-based movements and yoga, which is not a skill set that I had before. And so now I'm able to actually help my clients in those types of movements when I wasn't able to do that before. I could show you how to build strength and muscle. Be sure to celebrate your small wins, okay? Little things matter. The little things add up to be big things. I want you to try this journaling activity where you just write out, who are you aside from this aspiring bodybuilder? Who are you at the core? What do you want to be known as aside from that? What kind of impact do you want to make in the world? What do you see as your end goal in your life? 5, 10, 15, 20, those sorts of long-term goals. Where do you see yourself and how are you going to get there? It's probably not by making sure that you hit every macro on point, hit your steps exactly every day. I do want you to hit your steps. That's important. But give yourself some grace. When it is prep season, I get it. You're gonna go hardcore, but you need to treat this season properly so that you can show up as healthy as you possibly can during that prep so that you don't throw your hormones off as much as possible and that you do have a good muscle base underneath that fluff. Yes, you're going to have a little bit more fluff during this season because you need body fat. If you have lost your period, that is not a trophy. That is not something that you want. We want to get you back to balance and we want to keep your period throughout your prep. I know that sounds impossible, and it actually is if you're trying to get to a specific body fat. Your body seriously just can't handle that, and that's something that I unfortunately have to talk to a lot of my clients about, is maybe this certain category is not for you because everybody's a little bit different. But anyways, do not obsess over food. Food does not identify you. The food will be there later if you are full right now. You are in a season where it's okay to not hit your meal perfectly every single time. Rebuilding your identity takes intentional action. Understand who you are and what it is that makes you you, and ride with that. You are the only you. You do not have to be who you see on the internet. Nobody wants the second version of anyone. Start with tiny, value-aligned habits and slowly add them to your routine. It all will compound. You don't have to feel lost after your show. You can rebuild. You can be stronger, wiser, healthier. And if you want guidance navigating this transition, my one-on-one coaching is open and I am accepting applications down in the description. And we are going to truly honor your season. We are going to build you to feel your absolute best inside and out. And it's time to thrive. And I am so excited. I need you to feel your best self. I do. You do too. So let's get to work. Let's write your next chapter. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in my application down below. Bye.